Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Good afternoon and welcome to Amaravati again. This theme for the afternoon is how does metta practice benefit the world? So some of you will be very familiar with the idea of loving kindness meditation, metta bhavana. Some of you might not be, but for the benefit of those who are less familiar with it, so metta bhavana, loving kindness meditation, is one of the say traditional practices associated with the Buddhist teachings and the Buddhist tradition, and there are various ways that it's often taught and developed, and so often the encouragement is to, say, bring to mind, first of all, the thought of loving kindness towards yourself, and with the words, may I be well, or may I be at ease, may I be at peace, and spreading loving kindness to yourself, and bringing up that thought, and then spreading that thought then to other, say, categories of beings, first of all to the people that are very close to you, people that, say, in your family, or your people that you live with, your closest friends, and so on. And then to people who, say, you are less familiar with, the people who are some of the people that you work with, or people that you have known in the past, people who have that you've come in contact with many years ago. So going through the categories of people in terms of your relationship to them, well-known, medium, well-known, not known very much, and then through the categories of different, say, living beings. So the people around the world in other countries. Then the categories of beings such as animals, going through long lists of say mammals, reptiles, amphibians, birds, fishes, and so on and so forth. So going through a long list of different kinds of beings, so one by one, saying, may all fishes be happy, and may all the beings living in the oceans, in the seas, and the rivers, may they be well, may they be happy, may they be at peace. All the birds flying through the air, all the creatures living in the air, the flying insects, and airborne creatures, all the creatures living on the land, in the forests, in the mountains, in the woods, all the beings living under the ground, tunneling beings, voles, moles, etc., etc. So that this is one particular kind of metta meditation, going through the different categories of beings, starting with the humans, and then going through the different types of living beings on this planet, and then you can get even more expansive. Say, well, are the beings living in different realms of existence, down in the realm of the hungry ghosts, down in the hell realms, up in the heavenly realms, on other planets across the cosmos, to spread loving kindness to all those beings. Also, another method, rather than going through the categories of beings, you can go about it geographically. So you start off with, say, Amaravati, and then again, beginning with, say, directing loving kindness towards yourself, saying, may I be well, may I be at ease. Then say, may all the other people who are gathered together in this hall, in the sala here at Amaravati, may all the people be at ease, all the other beings that are living here, the spiders, the dust mites, all the creatures living in the kitchen that we don't want to think about. May they be at ease, may they be happy. And so spreading out that feeling, so around Amaravati, and then around Great Gadsden, around the Berkhamsted, Hemel Hempstead area, through Dacorum Borough, and through Hertfordshire, and through southern England, so spreading out, visualizing this wave of loving kindness spreading out from your own citta, your own heart at the center, and radiating out slowly like a kind of spreading pool, a spreading field of friendliness and warmth out over the whole country, across the Channel, through France and Germany, Europe, Italy, across the Mediterranean, North Africa, into Scandinavia, across the Atlantic, Greenland, the Faroe Islands, over to Canada and the USA, South America, Caribbean, and so on. And so using a kind of geographical model of, say, spreading the feeling of loving kindness. Say, may all beings that are, say, in the Caribbean, may they be happy, may they be at ease, may they be free from suffering. You know, everybody all beings living in North America, South America, across the Pacific, the Arctic, the Antarctic, and then again out from the world out into the rest of the solar system, out into space, and so forth, through other realms of beings. So these are a couple of the traditional ways that the metta practice is taught. Now, any of you who have done this kind of meditation in the past, you realize it can be a bit of a laundry list, or a kind of geography lesson. Now, what's the country that's immediately? What's the one that's to the right of Italy? Now, what is that? You know, or you get stuck in the Balkans, you know, or in North Africa. Now, which one is? You know, where is Algeria? And so it can become very sort of mechanical, or a bit caught up in the just remembering the names or the different beings that you bring to mind, say, or the mind can get quite sort of busy with this process of just thinking and bringing into consciousness the ideas of these different categories of people and beings in different places. So and so when the question is asked, how does metta practice benefit the world, then I didn't actually think of this title myself, but it's the kind of thing that people ask. So if you are doing this sort of practice, spreading loving kindness around the planet, does it really have an effect? If you're thinking of the people, you know, or the beings living under the oceans, you know, do the giant squid living under the sea down in the Antarctic, do they really feel anything when I take the trouble to spend loving kindness to the all the beings dwelling in the ocean? Does it really affect the sort of herds, you know, the herds of zebras across the African plains, or do the plankton, the swarms of plankton, you know, do they really feel anything? Can they can they pick up the vibes when I'm taking all this trouble to spread metta to these beings all around the world and out through the universe? So people wonder about this kind of thing, because also being say a rationalistic culture in the main, we wonder, well, what's the point of doing this? Is this helping anything or helping anybody? So this kind of question is not just confined to the Buddhist realm. And some of you might be aware that a few years ago, well, they've done a few different scientific studies, just gone a minor scientific track here, on the effectiveness of prayer. And there was a number of studies done, and they were not particularly rigorous. And so about 7 years ago, Harvard University did a large-scale study that was set up with very, very kind of tight parameters and careful scientific boundaries. There was a fellow called Herbert Benson was the one who ran this study, and it was to see, does prayer actually do any good? And prayers for the sick in particular. And so they got various different Christian church groups so to be the part of the experiment, and they had something like about 1,800 heart patients in various different parts of the USA were the subjects, and they were prayed for. Some of them knew they were being prayed for, some of them didn't know they were being prayed for. and so on and so forth. I won't go into the details of the experiment, but the end result of it was that there was no discernible effect. The recovery from heart disease was not improved by being prayed for. And in fact, it actually it was a lower recovery rate. Some portions of the group, they actually got worse when they knew they were being prayed for. So Richard Dawkins was, of course, extremely happy about that. So his heart was buoyed up by the news that it didn't really work very well, or had a negative effect, and they had the assumption that people knew they were being prayed for and they weren't getting any better, so it made them feel worse off than they were before. But anyway, I won't read too much into it. But anyway, when they did this study, and it was quite thoroughly, explored, they couldn't pick up any discernible effect. Of course, those of us who are card-carrying Buddhists might think, well, of course, they asked Buddhists to do metta meditation instead of having Christian prayers, and it would have been a whole different story. But so you're welcome to hold on to that view if you wish. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Have to do another study with a whole group of Buddhist meditators. But anyway, that was an inquiry just to see was there any kind of discernible effect. And so that, at least on that level, no effect was discernible, was measurable. And it was also, as another slight sidetrack on this whole issue, when quite a lot longer ago in this country, there was a Christian convent, a group of Poor Clares, and they had applied for charitable status. But in order to be a charity, a religious charity in this country, you have to show a public benefit. And so what and that being an enclosed community, they had no contact with the outside world at all. And so part of what they said, well, what they do is they pray for people. And the Charity Commission did not accept that as a basis. That just praying for others, that even the Charity Commission did not accept that was any kind of public benefit. So this is not an anti-Christian diatribe, but just saying that even the law of the country does not recognize that that metta practice or being prayed for or sending out thoughts of caring and kindness has any kind of discernible or measurable or real effect. So I'm not saying that there isn't any effect. I mean, you might think this is going to be a very short talk. It might be. But I wanted to touch on that first of all, to say that, from these kind of objective measures, then there's nothing sort of that people can point to in terms of scientific fact and say, yes, look, this is an observable thing. So when we practice loving kindness meditation, also another of the the interesting things, or what can be an obstacle. Some people, maybe when you practice loving kindness meditation, it has a very powerful positive effect both on yourself. You feel direct benefit on your own sense of well-being, and also that you experience for yourself the positive and helpful effects on others. But also what sometimes we can experience, and I certainly found this for myself, was that when you are carrying out this kind of meditation, and you're trying to rouse these thoughts, may all beings be happy, may I be well, may all beings be well, it can actually be quite irritating. And that so often on retreats, people will say, well, I was doing fine until we had that metta meditation, and it was so annoying. Having to rouse all these positive thoughts and sort of have all these kind of nice thoughts of all beings. He said, it made me think I was trapped in some kind of Walt Disney nightmare, trying to think all sorts of nice thoughts and to like everything. And this is a subject Luang Por Sumedho would often talk about, saying when you're being told to think pink and to sort of have positive thoughts, he said it had this instantaneous effect of making me feel really annoyed, and would bring up this sort of negativity, like, I don't care about anybody else, and that it would be these sort of strangely sour or negative feelings would rise up within him. And so a number of people have this kind of experience, and to the extent that I actually once saw a day-long meditation build on the subject of I hate Metta. Because that with loving kindness there can be this misunderstanding, or a way of say picking it up and thinking that we're supposed to generate feelings of liking and say the feelings of love and appreciation for all beings everywhere. And when it's picked up in that kind of a way, it can be like with Ajahn Sumedho saying that sort of the irritating think pink encouragement, that you're having to override your natural sense of discomfort, or there are things in life that you just don't like, that there are things that you can't pretend you feel positive or happy about, and that when we pick up loving kindness or metta in this way, we think it's supposed to be trying to generate the feeling of liking towards everything, then there's a kind of hypocrisy within us. We're kind of overriding that feeling that you're not happy about people who are abusing others, people who are bombing and destroying the lives of innocent people, those who are causing harm to others. You can't pretend that you feel say joy or delight and that say the effort to conjure up the feelings or the sense of I like you, I love you so much, I appreciate you, and may you be happy. So, well, if what makes them happy is blowing other people up, then that there's a kind of dislocation, a discomfort within us. We feel like we're just sugaring everything over and pretending to ourselves. So that what I found very helpful, because I would find that not so much that I would find metta practice would bring up that kind of negativity in myself, but I found it became very mechanical, just sort of going through the lists. I have quite a sort of list-making mind, and I would be quite caught up in the detail of trying to remember which countries I'd gone to and which categories of beings I dealt with already. So, oh, sorry, I forgot the tortoises, and so it became a kind of mechanical process. So what I found was extremely helpful was with listening to Ajahn Sumedho speaking many years ago about how when he tried to practice loving kindness meditation in this sort of systematic way, it would bring up these feelings of annoyance. And he said, I had this insight that there are things in the world, there are things in life that you just can't like. And if you try to pretend that you like them, or you make yourself like them, you're just lying to yourself, or there's a kind of hypocrisy there. And then he realized, well, actually, when we say metta means to love doesn't mean the same thing as to like. And that you can love something without liking it. You can have a quality of say, acceptance of the way something is, that even though you don't approve of some being's actions, some person's actions, you can't like what they do, but you can not dwell in aversion. You can not abide in a negativity towards them. And when he started to talk like that, I felt an immediate affinity. Oh, that makes more sense. So does that ring? It kind of rings a different chord for me. So hopefully it does for you as well, because when we use the English word love, we tend to blur it into meaning liking, and that when you are developing loving kindness meditation towards yourself, then you're not trying to pretend that you'd like your tendencies towards selfishness or towards anger or towards jealousy, or you're not pretending that you'd like your laziness or your greed, or in relationship to other people, the people who've hurt you in your life or caused you great harm, or you see causing harm to others. You're not saying that you're approving or you like what they do, the things that they have done are pleasing, but you can recognize this happens in nature, that there is violence in the natural world, that some people act in ways that are harmful and destructive. We ourselves might have some habits, tendencies, things that we've done that were really regrettable. And we're not trying to pretend that we like them, but what we're recognizing is that this is the way things are. These qualities of selfishness or greed or anger and jealousy, they exist in the natural world. They're part of the natural order. So when we say practice loving kindness towards all beings, towards ourselves and towards other beings, then it makes more sense, and it's more realistic, more meaningful to consider this in terms of a radical acceptance of all beings. And so you're not trying to pretend you're liking the unlikable, but you're recognizing, here it is. This is the way things are. So like if you have a migraine, you can't pretend that you like it. Oh, how marvelous. Yeah, you might try and do a little bit of thinking pink. Oh, what a wonderful opportunity to develop patience. I've had a migraine for 3 days. Or that someone's got a vendetta against me. Someone has got very negative thoughts and is trying to make your life difficult. Oh, how marvelous! Yeah, this is a great opportunity to learn patience and to not bear grudges. And so we can try and sugar it over, but in actuality, that painful experience, say a migraine headache, or somebody who's got very negative feelings towards us, or someone that has been our ex-spouses are particularly good for this, because when you're doing teaching loving kindness meditation, and you invite people to arouse the thought, may all beings be happy. Oftentimes people say, yeah, right. What I experienced was it, may all beings be happy except her, or him. And there's this sort of vivid and very immediate sense of like there's certain beings are excluded here. And back in the old days when Luang Por Sumedho would be teaching this, Margaret Thatcher was a very good. He would deliberately bring her in if he was leading a loving kindness meditation. So may all the beings in Amaravati, all the beings in Hertfordshire, in London, may Margaret Thatcher be happy. And he would just, he could be quite kind of provocative. So he knew he'd get a reaction, and you could feel this sort of lurch go through the room at the concept of spreading loving kindness to Margaret Thatcher. So obviously that era has passed by now, but what he would point to is that the essence of loving kindness is more to do with that radical acceptance and not dwelling in aversion towards another being. That in a place in our heart that we can recognize this is part of the whole picture. Even unlikable political leaders. They are part of the way things are. They're part of the natural order. You're not necessarily approving of their actions, but they are part of life. They're part of the natural system. They're here. They belong. And so I felt when he started to teach about loving kindness in that way, that was extremely helpful. And so he would point out that if you're feeling resentment or anger towards somebody, an ex-partner, or to your Dhamma teacher who's let you down, or to your prime minister that you love to hate, then if you're trying to climb over your anger and then through gritted teeth saying, may Margaret Thatcher be happy, may she be well, or Ajahn so-and-so, or her, or him, through gritted teeth, then you're trying to climb over that negativity to get to a place where you're imagining on the other side where you will like everything or like everybody and have this sort of Walt Disney-esque cheerful and friendly attitude towards all others. But he said that when we do that, then we're already living in a kind of fantasy world. We're not living with a reality. It's far more realistic and useful to actually have loving kindness for your own anger, to have a kindness towards your own negativity, your own laziness, your own jealousy, and your own rigidity of views and such like. Which doesn't mean to say, oh, how wonderful, it's glorious that I'm a selfish and greedy person. And if you don't like it, you should just get over it. It's not that. It's more like saying, well, this is a human life, and in this mind has the capacity both for wisdom and kindness and love. It also has the capacity for selfishness and greed, negativity. And this is part of the whole natural system, part of the natural order. So you're not justifying your unwholesome qualities, but you're saying, here they are. This is part of the natural system. If we go around the grounds at Amaravati and explain to the cats they're not supposed to hunt mice in the hedges, or we explain to the buzzards that they're not supposed to be catching the voles and the wild creatures in the fields, they're not going to listen because they're a predator. They're a sort of meat-eating predator. You can explain the first precept to the cats and to the birds, the hawks and the raptors, but they're not going to listen. And you're asking too much. You're coming from an idealistic place. So, in this respect, rather than trying to climb over our negativity or our aversion to get to the place where we like everything on the other side, where we're thinking pink, instead, it's more helpful to recognize, here is the feeling of anger, here is the feeling of jealousy, here is the feeling of selfishness, and it's like this. So you're not condoning it, you're not pretending that it's a wonderful and beautiful thing, but you're saying, here it is. This is part of the natural order. So when we think about loving kindness in this way, then we can see whether it has an effect on the rest of the world, whether the creatures in the seas and the skies far away are having experiencing a direct effect or direct benefit from our thoughts of loving kindness. What we can see is that when we relate to our own mind in this way, it can have a very radical effect upon the way that we are, because any of us who try to practice meditation, you try to deal with your say negative emotions, greediness or aversion, anger, jealousy and so forth, just by suppressing them or pushing them away or just trying to think positively. It doesn't work, does it? In fact, the more we try to push them away or suppress them, then the stronger they get. We just bury those habits, and then they rise up again with great vigor. But instead, if we are able to bring loving kindness and have a quality of acceptance towards, say, our negative emotions, so that we're able to recognize, this is the feeling of fear, this is the feeling of desire, of greed, this is the feeling of anger or jealousy, and there is that acceptance of, yeah, this is part of nature, then we're able to to direct our mind in a skillful way. So you're not afraid of that, you're not pretending it's not there, you're not suppressing it, you're not condoning it or just being swept along by it, but rather you're seeing that it's there is this tendency within the heart. There's that capacity to be experiencing these negative emotions, but when they are accepted with an attitude of loving kindness, then there is a clarity within us, and we're much more able to make skillful choices. So the example that I give is that when we are developing this kind of acceptance, it's rather like coming to a junction in the road. So like if you go down the hill from Amaravati and you get to the crossroads in Great Gadsden, if you go right, that'll take you to Hemel Hempstead. If you go left, it'll take you to Leighton Buzzard. So in a similar way, when we see the nature of our own mind, there might be a negative, angry thought in one direction, and there might be a friendly, helpful impulse in the other direction. So if you feel that angry, negative impulse, say that's the road to Leighton Buzzard, say, okay, well, this is an angry impulse. Somebody just said something that upset me, and it touched a raw nerve. Now, if I follow that, that's going to be painful for me. It's going to be painful for them. Everybody loses. So if I at this point practice restraint, if I choose not to act on that impulse, but instead I develop the quality of patience and wait before I say something, then I'll be able to remain at peace, and the other person won't feel attacked either. So everybody benefits. And then you're not saying that angry impulse is sort of evil or bad or something intrinsically wrong. It's just that's the direction I don't want to go. Like if you get to the junction, you want to go to Hemel and back to the M25, then you take a right. You turn right at the junction. That's the turn that will take us to where we want to go. If we go the other way, if we take the left turn, that'll take us the direction we don't want to go. So it's a very simple, pragmatic choice. And that we can relate to our own skillful and unskillful qualities in this way, so that the attitude of metta, of loving kindness, then forms a foundation, a foundation of realism within us, upon which we can make skillful choices. Does that make sense? Yeah. So in this way, rather than loving kindness being a kind of additional practice that's sort of tacked on the edge, and sometimes when you come on a meditation retreat and most of the meditation instruction is about concentration or about the development of insight, and then you do a little bit of metta, sort of have a metta meditation one morning, like a kind of after dinner mint, a sort of an extra little sort of sweet thing tacked on the edge. Like, well, I think Vipassana meditation, that's the most important thing, but I kind of like a little metta now and then. There's a sort of a sweetener or like a little kind of chocolate with your coffee. I don't feel that's a very skillful way of relating to it at all, but far more that that metta practice or the genuine development of loving kindness is so important that it's really the foundation for any kind of concentration or any kind of insight. Because if there isn't that foundation, that basis of acceptance, then you're always going to be pushing away the unskillful habits of mind, like trying to force the thinking mind to shut up and be quiet, or trying to suppress our urges towards desire or towards fear or towards negativity. And we push them away, suppress them, and try to keep our mind on the meditation object. And so as long as there's that kind of pushing and suppressing going on, then there's never going to be any kind of real peacefulness. There's never going to be any real clarity in the meditation. But if we cultivate this fundamental attitude of loving kindness and saying, yes, well, chattering thoughts, they belong. They're part of the whole system. Irritating impulses, the feelings of sort of homicidal rage at the way that the person sitting next to you breathes in that really annoying way. They know that it's upsetting, and they're doing it on purpose. I know it. Well, all right, Luang Por Sumedho would always use the example of somebody coming into the hall with a really noisy nylon jacket. And that these kind of violent urges, I can't believe it. I've made all these hints about noisy clothing and this nylon jacket, and still there, it's the fourth day of the retreat, and they keep coming in, and they don't get there. To recognize those homicidal urges are also part of the way things are. You just choose not to act on them, especially if you're leading the retreat. It's supposed to be a kind of model of non-violence. That you recognize, well, that's a homicidal urge, and I choose not to follow it. This good gentleman has just chosen not to get the hint about wearing jackets that make a lot of noise, and so I can just let that be sound and leave that alone. So that in that way we're recognizing those the unskillful negative impulses, and just like coming to the junction. Okay, where do you want to go? Do you want to go north or do you want to go south? If you want to go back towards London and to the motorway, then you head south. it's not because south is intrinsically good and wonderful, or that north is evil. It's just that's the direction you want to go. You want to go towards clarity and concentration and peacefulness. Okay, go right. If you want to go towards more conflict and confusion and tension, okay, go left. That's going to be the result of it. So this is also echoed. The more kind of classical style of what we think of as the classical style of metta meditation. You don't actually find that anywhere in the Pali canon. That sort of that spreading loving kindness, or geographically, or through categories of beings. You don't really get that in the Pali canon, which is kind of interesting. But it's a methodology of practice that has grown up over time since after the Buddha's own era. But what you do get in the sutta, which is I find is very interesting, is in a sense an example of this same capacity to not dwell in aversion. And in the sutta called the simile of the saw, this is a very dramatically. The Buddha was very good at bringing forth dramatic and memorable images. And in talking about loving kindness, he says, if you've been captured by bandits, and they were brutally sawing you limb from limb with a two-handled saw. So like you've been captured by bandits, and they're sawing your arms and legs off, sawing your arms and legs off. He said, if you give rise to anyone who gives rise to a thought of hatred towards those who are sawing your arms and legs off, they would not be acting according to my teachings. So you're not trying to pretend, oh, how happy I am that you're sawing my arms and legs off. I hope you chaps aren't straining yourselves too much. So is the phrase that the Buddha uses is if you one who gives rise to a mind of hatred towards them would not be carrying out my teaching. So you're not pleased that they're doing that. You're not trying to pretend that you're happy that they're sawing your arms and legs off. But you're not generating hatred on account of that. And instead, as he encourages, may they have hearts that are free from enmity. May they be at peace, so that may they be at ease, so that you're not say, even in an extreme situation like that. The Buddha said, and he used that kind of image on purpose, because you'd think a little bit of anger would be appropriate. Just a teensy bit of resentment when someone's sawing your arms and legs off. It seems kind of a reasonable hatred, right? But he said, even in that situation, where you would see it as completely justified, that if the mind dwells in hatred towards another being, it is intrinsically out of harmony with Dhamma. You're intrinsically out of accord with the reality of things. But so you're not trying to pretend that you like it, but you're also not letting the heart move towards hatred. But there's a recognition of say, here are these poor deluded beings that are sawing me up, and they're creating really bad karma on account of this, and so may they be at ease, may they be free from suffering, and then maybe they'll stop sawing me up. So that's a very powerful teaching, that even in a completely unlovable situation like that, where it's extremely painful and obviously life-threatening, even in a situation like that, there's no justification for dwelling in hatred, but rather to let go of that hatred and to cultivate a quality of acceptance. So this might seem that the Buddha's setting the bar pretty high there, but he uses a dramatic image on purpose, because if you have that in mind, you really take that to heart and say, okay, well, there you are, having your arms and legs sawed off. Even in that situation, if it's not allowable to cultivate a mind of hatred, is it really appropriate to have those same kind of homicidal urges towards the person who wears a nylon jacket in the meditation hall, or who swapped the chair from your office? they took my chair, or they moved my plant, or that someone's parked in your place, and that we can feel it's kind of reasonable to dwell in negativity and aversion. But the Buddha said, even if they're sawing your arms and legs off, to dwell in aversion, to cultivate hatred, is intrinsically out of harmony with things. So that when we take that kind of teaching to heart, and we see that this is a capacity that we all have, and when we learn to develop that radical acceptance, again, it's not pretending that we like the unlikable, but saying, here it is. This, and even if it's not bandits are sawing your arms and legs off, maybe it's having some kind of debilitating illness and you have to go to hospital, and you're having some kind of very painful treatment, chemotherapy, or even having limbs amputated by doctors, that's what you need to have happen in order to stay alive, to cultivate that sense of acceptance. Well, I wouldn't have chosen this, but here it is. This is what's happening. This is the result of having a human body. That this is the kind of things that we can experience in life. So here it is. So that quality of loving kindness then is a profound basis for peace. You're not just switching off and going numb. You're not resenting, but you're in a way you're bringing your heart into attunement with the reality of things, and then we're able to say relate to our own life and then to those around us from a non-reactive place. You might think that story about, or that the image that the Buddha uses is a bit fanciful or remote, but there's a famous story of a great Chinese master, Master Shu Yun, that some of you might be familiar with, that he was so highly respected in China. He was born in the 1830s, I think born in 1839, and he lived until 1959, so he was 120 when he died. He'd made a vow to be a monk for 100 years, and he was so highly respected and so accomplished that he was appointed the head of all 5 different lineages of Buddhism in China. So he was very much a persona non grata. He was a dangerous person to the communist revolutionaries, and so during the time of the revolution, he was 110 years old. The Red Guard came to his monastery, and they sort of took him out and then beat him with wooden clubs and broke his arms and legs and left him for dead. And then, to the amazement of his disciples and the other monks in the monastery, he didn't die. He slowly recovered. The news that he was not dead and reached the communist army again. They came back and they beat him up again using metal bars on the second time. So they beat him again, broke his limbs and beat him to a pulp and left him. But again, he didn't die. And he was unconscious for many days, and then when he came round, then his disciples said to him, "So, Shufu, please, we realize you have extraordinary mental capacities, and that you're staying alive because of compassion for us, who would be so heartbroken if you passed away. But you're terribly injured. You're in extreme pain. Your body's really been broken. Please don't just stick around for our benefit. If you want to just relinquish the life force, then please feel most welcome to do so, because we don't want you to be experiencing this kind of physical pain and misery on account of us." And he said, "Well, it's not for you. Because it's true, I am staying alive through my own will, but it's not for you. It's for the benefit of the guards the Red Guard who beat me up. Because if I died on account of their actions, the karmic result for them would be so awful. I couldn't bear to be responsible for that. So that's why I'm staying alive." So after that, he recovered, and he lived another 10 years after that. And if any of you are familiar with the books Chan and Zen Training by Charles Luke, there's Dharma teachings that Master Shu Yun gave from a retreat in Shanghai that was when he was 114. So 4 years after that, that he was still running retreats and giving teachings after that time. And so that was he was a very remarkable being indeed. So that that sense of being in the presence of something that's sort of so painful or so difficult, but yet choosing not to dwell in aversion and not to be guided by that, it's possible for us. Now, on a much more everyday scale, we're not being beaten up or attacked in that way, but we can see for ourselves, in terms of what's the benefit of loving kindness meditation, that when we find this capacity to accept and to be open to even the unwanted, the difficult, the painful, then it not only is a basis for peace in ourselves, but also it has a good effect on the people around us. And just yesterday I was in London. We were doing a little house blessing or flat blessing for George Sharp, who was the chairman of the English Sangha Trust for a long time, and the one who invited Ajahn Chah and Ajahn Sumedho to come to England back in the 1970s. So he just moved to a new place, and so we were doing a blessing for that. And his son Ben was telling me a story how, so just a few weeks ago, and they were talking about aversion in particular, and the sort of the Sharp family trait, inclination towards negativity that both father and son experience from time to time. And Ben Sharp was saying how he'd been out with friends in London. I think it was in Dalston somewhere. So it was a rough part of town, and it was early in the morning, and he and a friend were just sort of going along to a cafe to get some breakfast. And he said this man had called out to him from across the street, asking for a cigarette. And he said, I didn't hear him. Quite honestly, I didn't hear anything said. But this man got really enraged and came charging over and was threatening, saying, "I'm going to kill you. How can you ignore me? I'm going to kill you. I don't care. I'll go to prison for you. How can you dare to treat me like that? I'm going to do you. I'm going to do you." And Ben had said that he'd been doing a lot of reflecting and reading on the teachings, and so his mind was very, very quiet and peaceful. And when this man came flying at him and threatening, literally threatening to murder him, coming right at him, right in his face, saying, "I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you, how dare you treat me like that?" He said, "I'm sorry, I just didn't hear what you said. Look, I haven't got a problem with you, I haven't got a problem." And he said he put his arm around this bloke and said, "Look, I haven't got a problem with you, it's all right." He said, I'll kill you. And he said, "No, really, friend, if I had a cigarette, I'll give it to you, but I haven't got one, and I wasn't trying to be rude, I just didn't hear you saying anything." And then, because within him he wasn't afraid, he wasn't irritated, he wasn't angry, but he just was able to receive this person's sort of blast. He said, after a few more of these murder threats, I said, "Sorry about that." It's just it's been a bad time. It's been a bad time, So thank you. This is great. So I'm so glad I met you. What can I do for you? What can I do for you? And so within moments, the whole thing had been turned around, where this bloke's literally about to attack him physically, and then just through that sort of receiving that wave of negativity, not recoiling from it, not pushing against it, but just recognizing, okay, well, here's this big guy coming at me and threatening violence. And to Ben's credit, he was able to just react, to respond in a skillful way, and then it turned the situation right around. And George at that point chimed in and said, "Yeah, and the other morning, Ben came at me," and he was all enraged because he was trying to sleep in, and I just popped into his room and woken him up. And so he said, "Yeah, Ben was coming at me, and he was raging away, and swearing and getting all in a huff about how Dad had interrupted his sleep." And then and George said, "So I still waited for my moment." And I just said, "That's enough." And then in exactly the same way, then Ben was able to recognize, yeah, that was pretty stupid, wasn't it? I really lost it there. And then being able to receive that feedback. So this these kind of interactions, these way of receiving negativity or feeling those kind of negative impulses in ourselves, being able to recognize what they are, to see that we don't have to be afraid of them, we don't have to push them away, we're not pretending that we like them, we have a difficult, painful, threatening situation, then that sense of, oh, here it is, I didn't choose this, I wouldn't have asked for this, but this is what's happening right now, that's what I would call a radical acceptance, saying that, this belongs. Being harassed by people, total strangers in the street, coming up and giving you a bad time. That's part of life, right? Especially if you're dressed like this, it's even more of a common experience. But if we are able to accept that the impulses within ourselves will come from outside, then not only does that form a basis for peace in ourselves, but it has a very powerful effect on others. And you can be sure that for that fellow that he met on the street, it's not going to be an encounter that he forgets. That'll be something that has a profound effect, one way and another. So the more that we can develop this capacity to attune ourselves to the time, the place, the situation, and have a quality of acceptance for the things in our life, our own difficulties, whether it's something extreme like being attacked by somebody in the street, or whether it's just, say, being at peace with our own, diminishing faculties as our hearing goes, or our vision goes, or our capacity to remember goes, or that of our those capacities of our loved ones. Things that a child of ours is very sick, or our partner is getting very ill or aged, or there is that presence of things that we would never wish for, we would never choose. To be able to cultivate loving kindness is to recognize, well, here it is. This is the way things are. So again, you're not just becoming numb and passive. You're not resenting and creating negativity. But in that quality of loving kindness, you're opening up a responsivity. You're opening up yourself to how things are, and then from that place of responsivity, then if there's something that can be done, then you can speak or act in a way that's appropriate. If nothing can be done, you find you can leave it alone and just allow things to pass by. Now the effect that has on ourselves, or how that spreads around the world, we can't say. I would suggest you can't say. It's mysterious how this works, but we can certainly recognize that when you consider what the world is according to the Buddha's teaching, it's not just the planet with all of the animals and birds and fishes and different countries, but if we ask the question, how does metta practice benefit the world? We can see directly that it benefits the world as we experience it, the world of our own senses, the world of our mind and body, and that our lives are connected to the lives of other beings, in one way, shape or form. Our lives affect each other in smaller or larger ways. The exact degree to which we affect each other, you can't calculate that, you can't measure that. The impact of, say, Ben Sharp having that encounter with that bloke on the street in Dalston, what effect that will have in terms of spreading loving kindness or having a positive effect in the world. Yeah, who knows? I mean, now it's in this Dhamma talk, and so maybe somebody will hear this and hear this story and say, yeah, that's really a wonderful standard. Yeah, I never really thought of holding it that way, and then it can inform that person, or even just the ripples of the peaceful effect of someone's anger dissipating and being turned to appreciation. Just that in itself, on some kind of mysterious and magnetic level, can ripple through the whole system. Yeah. We don't know. I would say we don't know. But what we can know is when we are able to see that impulse within ourselves, we are able to recognize that wave of fear, of jealousy, of anger, of impatience, of laziness. We're able to see that, to know that, and say, okay, I could take a left turn here, and that's the mind has the capacity to follow that. Like, I don't care, or how dare you, and we see that as a turn in the road, and we say, okay, I could go down that direction, but I choose not to. So you're not hating that, you're not fearing that, you're recognizing what it is, where it goes, and you can say, okay, I choose not to go that direction. I'll go this way, towards forgiveness, towards patience, towards openness and peacefulness, and we can know that effect immediately, directly, and without any doubt whatsoever. There's no kind of mystery or magic involved with that. So these are some themes around loving kindness, and what I found is the most helpful way to relate to it. And those of you who have done more of the sort of systematic types of loving kindness meditation and found them very helpful, well, marvelous, good. I wouldn't presume to negate that. But for myself, I found this way of, say, rather than using a loving kindness meditation that is, coming from a set of ideas or coming from the head or list of beings, it's more helpful to bring it down into your own heart, into your own feeling, and to find this capacity to accept and to be at home with even the aspects of our life that we would never choose. Say that someone has a conflict with us, that they're nursing a resentment towards us, or that we have some kind of painful memory, something that we've done in the past that's never going to go away, that is a regrettable a memory that's woven together with regret. If we are careful and attentive, if we are thorough, and we bring this attitude of loving kindness, then it's remarkable how the world is transformed. It's our own world is really turned around in a very radical way. That we are able to, in a mysterious sense, you're not going to make everything all right. We're not going to have the like the sort of Walt Disney-esque world of the or like the Jehovah's Witness pamphlets, where you have the sort of the lambs cuddling up with the lions. It's not, the world's not going to be like all like a Walt Disney film. But what we are more able to find is that there's no situation that we are in, no situation, no eventuality in our life that we can't find a quality of peace and a quality of attunement within that. We find ourselves able to experience a quality of fearlessness. We become not afraid of things going in any particular direction. So when we experience difficulty, when I have illness within ourselves or those around us, we see tension and stress, difficulty in the world, then we are neither do we find ourselves having to switch off and just push it away, or are we overwhelmed with anxiety and intimidation on account of it? But we find ourselves able to open to the way things are, to the way the world is, and without any kind of confusion, we find ourselves much more in accord and in harmony with life in many, many different ways. And so that loving kindness being spread around the world, we find that we are experiencing it in the fact that we can receive the whole world. We can receive all the aspects of the world, the beautiful, the ugly, the neutral, the wished for and the unwished for. We can receive it all and say find a place in our heart where it all belongs. And again, just to reiterate, we're not trying to make ourselves happy that the ice caps are melting, or that species are becoming more and more extinct, or that the wars that are going on and the abusive governments and violent groups are carrying out their actions. We're not pretending that we like it or that it's good and fine, but we're able to find that place in the heart where we're able to see, this is the world, this is our life, this is what we're part of, and that quality of fearlessness means that we're then able to respond and to offer what we can in the different areas of life where we can have an effect, and the things that we can't have an effect on, or that are out of our reach, then we find ourselves able to leave that alone without feeling that there's something that we should have done, or it's something that causes us a kind of ongoing stress and a kind of disquiet and depression within ourselves. So I'll leave these thoughts for you to consider today, and then we'll have a pause for some refreshments. I can hear the cups rattling in the kitchen, so they'll probably come out onto the servery any minute now, and then about 20 past we'll gather back together for some discussion.